Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, good evening, guys. How are we?
Hello.
Hello.
Good.
Very
How are
good.
you doing?
Yeah, good. Thanks for asking. As Tiana said, and you're probably already aware, album's already out over here, so we've heard it, which is pretty cool. Look, I know you've probably been asked this question an awful lot, Garrett, and this is directed at you. So I'm just going to get straight into it, by the way. And you're going to get asked it probably an awful lot as the day wears on. Did you take the shopping cart that you used for trick or treat back to Target?
Oh my! I'm gonna be completely honest with you and say that I really thought I would. I really thought that I had that responsible, good Samaritan within me.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, it was literally it was it was 4 a.m. today, and I had to go to the LAX, and I was like, wait, Target's closed, so I didn't. I did not put that back, and if I don't get to if St. Peter doesn't let me through the pearly gates, I'll know why.
All right. We'll remember that. Noted. Duly noted.
Yeah.
Okay.
For those who don't know, I tweeted. These guys don't use Twitter, so I tweeted that I took a Target basket from Target. I asked how bad it was to take a Target basket from Target for trick or treating because I wanted to go trick or treating, but I didn't want to buy a thing because I knew I wouldn't keep it.
Right.
So I would just rather use the Target.
So you just stole
basket.
it.
Well, I borrowed it, but then it kind of at some point did turn into stealing.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm
Borrowed.
sorry,
Yeah.
Target. Target's watching me now. I'm gonna have people in blue shirts following me.
There's a warrant out for your arrest.
Minnesota's
Yeah.
headquarters, so
Oh
I don't
shoot!
think you can come back.
We can't play Minnesota.
So let's actually get into it. The obviously the new album's out today here in Australia, Super Bloom. We know that there's something about today's date that's important because of what happened last year. And I know you've been asked an awful lot about this, so I'll zoom straight into that. Is how did what happened last year impact the writing and recording of this album?
It's a hard question to answer, but I think that to not be too long-winded about it, having your life kind of flash before your eyes like that changes how you look at everything, really. And I think that for a long time as a band, we were kind of just doing what we had done previously, musically, that is to say. Like we would make an album, and then the next album we would break maybe a little bit of new ground, but we were kind of still just operating inside of a bubble that we were more or less comfortable with. And I think something like this really pushed all of us to want to break out of that a little bit and be as forward thinking and progressive as we could about it. Granted, probably like a good half of the record was already finished. Musically anyways, it was done before the accident, but after the accident, it's like, man, life is precious and it could end very, very quickly. And I think that's something that some of us take for granted sometimes. And so having that experience forced upon us was like, man, I feel way more inclined to just like pour all of myself into the rest of this record.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was yeah, scary.
What was there a determined effort to then have the album done for today's date, for the anniversary?
I don't know. I guess when it happened, we had just started a U.S. tour. It was after show one, and so it was over pretty quickly. It took maybe a few hours of like after the crash, like just handling a bunch of logistical stuff. But we went right back to touring, and I don't think that we really discussed that at all. We were just like, we had to get right straight back to like touring mindset and the grind. So no, I don't think it was until later, I guess maybe earlier this year, that we were realizing we would finish in such a time that we could maybe even do it like a 1 year anniversary release. But it wasn't like wasn't a conscious thought until I guess sometime this year. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's pretty cool. It's just it's a beautiful coincidence then that's happened. Is the album a like, because the album, my understanding is it's about a teenager who meets an extraterrestrial and the changes that they go through. Is the album, though, is it a metaphor for what the band's gone through then over the last 12 months?
I would say that I didn't write it thinking of it being that way, but I think art, and when you make something, it has a funny way of dictating life. It's like well, I think every philosophy and tradition has a belief in some form of projection of reality, or what you loose on earth will be loose in heaven, or vice versa. But yeah, I think as above, so below, whatever, just the concept that I think you open up potential futures when you do things. And so I think that in a way the album ended up dictating life in some weird ways, at least in my experience and of it. And maybe that's because my head's in like a weird my head's in some like weird cloud space when I'm writing lyrics, and these guys are like actually doing the hard heavy lifting of like making cool songs, and then I'm like just getting weird. So I can't speak for them, but I would say that, yeah, it's kind of what it feels like it ended up happening. And that's a really interesting question that you just asked.
Yeah, I would agree with all of that. Like, it's a funny coincidence that it just happens to be about, like, metamorphosis.
Yeah, totally. But yeah, that's such as c'est la vie.
Cool. So going into the music itself, I mean, like, when I listened to the album, I heard so many different genre styles that are in there, and I'm not a big fan of boxing things in, especially in the metal world. For me, everything is just metal. But if we do box them in, you can hear metalcore. There's a little bit of death metal. There's some electronic in there. There's some prog metal that turns up in there as well. So it becomes really eclectic, all the styles that are in. Was that part of what you mentioned earlier, was the whole, we're just going to try anything and throw stuff at a wall and see what fits, because you now have this second opportunity to do so?
Yeah. Like I said, I think maybe half of the record or so was musically finished and written before the accident. But when I say finished, I don't mean like on record, mixed, mastered. I mean, like, we kind of shut the book on it. And so coming back to those songs from like a production standpoint afterwards, yeah, I mean, at least as far as music, I would say that I was feeling inspired by our second chance to dive in and adjust things and push the envelope a bit. But I think we also have our producer Dan Bronstein to blame for just how the whole thing turned out. What a guy. Instrumental for us, really helping us to not be afraid to make those choices, to like incorporate some of those things, and guiding the whole process, and being like a really, really trustable sounding board. Because the hardest thing is like when you come up with something new and the only people that can listen to it are the band, because the band is going to be predisposed to either hate it because it's so different than anything we've done, or we're gonna be like too attached to it and think it's great even if it isn't. So having somebody that you trust to be like the curator of the whole project when you're trying to do something like this is like very important. So yeah, shout out Dan Bronstein for helping us incorporate all of that stuff and it not be, I don't know, cheesy or too much or whatever.
No, it's good. Well, it's your baby, and then you don't want someone coming along and tearing apart your baby. You want it to be, refined and grown and matured. So it's good. Obviously, some songs had already dropped anyway before, obviously, the albums come out. What's been the feedback that you've had for the songs that have already come out?
It's been the best feedback we've ever had for pretty much anything. Antimatter specifically certainly has eclipsed everything. But yeah, the feedback's been far beyond expectation.
Good. Going back to a Twitter point that you made a few days ago, the Off-Worlder video, it's going to be R-rated, is it?
You know, I think it's the first time I've ever done an interview with someone that's read my tweets. This is interesting. Yeah, it's an R-rated music video. It is in the vein of John Wick. It is.
Ooh.
Well, I mean, by the time anyone hears the video comes out in like 6 hours, so
Yeah.
I mean, you know, if we had time, we would just show it to you. But you'll see it in 6 hours if you want. It's just it's basically one continuous, you know, fight scene. And it fits into like the larger Super Bloom story. And I'm hoping that maybe just how insane the video is kind of pulls people into the story even a little bit, or maybe some people just watch and be like, "Hey, badass," and move on. But whatever happens, it's we're proud of it, but it's just very different, and it was just fun to do something different. You know, when you've already done like 16 music videos, you just get to a point where you're like, as long as it feels inspired in a particular direction that's unique, like let's do it, you know. And so that's kind of what this was.
Yeah.
Well, like you said, it follows on from the concept. So, I mean, I know you've got your lyrical concepts, but the musical concept of pushing the boundaries, that just follows on from that again, and
Yeah.
literally going into new worlds, which is pretty cool. And in terms of so Nick, last one in the band. You're the last one in the band, man. So are the guys treating you well, or are they treating you like Metallica did with Jason Newsted?
You know, if I blink twice, will you catch my meaning? No, they're great. I mean, you know, my story with them is that I've been going to their shows in Minnesota where I live for like 8 years.
2015, right?
Yeah, I mean, I saw them play in a garage to basically nobody, and I've caught, you know, their career through the years since that, and I've been a genuine fan, and so last year to get the opportunity to fill in and now be in the band is just like it's great, you know, and they couldn't be more welcoming, and yeah, like we're all just embracing a change,
Yeah.
you know. Obviously with Tommy leaving the band, he's been, you know, with them for so long. He's very much part of Silent Planet, and you know, we've just all kind of been, I don't know, embracing the change one day at a time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah,
Cool.
and I can say that having Nick join our band has easily been one of the best experiences that we've ever had of being in this band.
For sure.
You know, just as much as it was also, you know, very hard, obviously, yeah, having Thomas go, but it's just it's cool. It was fun. We also toured, like the five of us, so the four of us plus Thomas toured pretty extensively late last year and early this year. So there's a camaraderie, and I think Nick joining just feels like the family got bigger. Obviously, Tommy and his kid and his wife are always going to be part of the family, but he's just functionally not, like, he's not in the day to day anymore, you know. But
Yeah.
we obviously keep in touch. We love him, and it's been awesome. And having, as Nick said, he was a fan, so having someone come into the band who's been a fan of the band, in some ways he understands our band better than we can. I think there's certain angles and perspectives that you get when you're not in it for so long, that you can like he can remember our songs coming out, whereas we only have memories of putting them out. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's been fun.